Okay, as a preliminary matter, my name is Pete Pecos. I'm the chair of the Newbury Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Planning board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Larry Murphy,
Yes.
George Morse,
Yes.
Leslie Matthews,
Yes.
Woody Knight,
Yes.
Mary Stone,
Indeed.
and thank you all. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Martha Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you. Emily Noble.
Yes.
Thank you. Anticipated speakers and presenters on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Tom,
Yes.
great. Phil Henry.
Yes.
Hey, Phil. TJ Melvin.
Yes.
Thank you. Phil Kateros.
He will not be here tonight,
Okay. Doug DeShendis.
and they may not be here until a little later.
Okay. Adam True and Scott Cameron. Okay, great. Good evening. This is the 5th of May, 2021. The meeting of the Newbury Planning Board is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order supersedes the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in publicly accessible location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Newbury Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted in the Planning Board's agenda, which can be found on the town's website and which identifies how the public may join. You may join us by going to http://zoom.us and entering the meeting ID number 832-7141-3056 or by calling 1-929-205-6099 and entering the meeting ID number when prompted. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference. Meeting materials were provided to the board members prior to the meeting for review. Applicants or their representatives may be called upon to speak and, if needed, share information to the screen. Please state your intention after you have been called. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, please permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, as the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will go down the list of board members, inviting them each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, for all attendees except board members and staff, please remember to mute your computer with a mute button or your phone, which is the *6 to toggle to mute or unmute yourself when you're not speaking. Please use earbuds or earphones with tablets or cell phones. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any responses, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If board members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through me, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. For public comment, there'll be an opportunity for public comment and questions during the public hearings. After board members have spoken, I will afford the public an opportunity to comment and/or ask questions as follows. I will seek questions and comments through the raise hand function. For video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over to the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the yellow hand that appeared. See the yellow hand, click on the participant buttons. A list of participants will open and display on the right. At the bottom of the participants area, you will see an option to click on the raise hand button. Please ensure that your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself by using more functions next to your name. Telephone participants, to raise your hands in the Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone keypad. I will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in an order in which they are listed, which is determined by the order in which people click on the raise hand function. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name and address, and then ask their question or make a comment. I will afford the applicant, participant, or his representative, the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. I will then continue down the list of those from the raise hand column, and again afford participant, applicant, representatives an opportunity to speak. Should there be any physical electronic submittal of questions and concerns, they will be noted for the record. Again, the participant, applicant, and representative will be afforded the opportunity to speak if issues raised have not yet been addressed. Each vote tonight will be taken by a roll call. Okay. Just some opening remarks. We are starting our meetings, first public meeting hearing at 6:30, and then we will go into our second public hearings. There will be public hearings for 3 projects tonight. Each hearing will try to limit to, as we try to do, 30 to 45 minutes out of courtesy to the applicants, other speakers on the agenda, members of the public, and as well as to the board members. Remember, folks, that if you're using a phone, *9 to raise your hands. Okay. First, we are going to start. The first thing on our agenda, I believe, is 15 Coleman Road. Is that correct, Martha?
Yes, it is.
All right. So this is a OSRD special permit and an OSRD definitive subdivision plan, which concurrently is continued from 4/12/21. Just for the record, I want to indicate that I have watched the video of April 21st of the public of the session of the public hearing, and the appropriate certification has been submitted to the planning director. The other thing that I want to indicate that this morning I initiated a conversation with the applicant, with the planning director, and the only intention and only item discussed during this conversation for board to be aware of is that I queried if there was any way that we could explore developing any affordable housing with this project. It had been discussed, and I just wanted to touch base with the applicant. There was no plan made. There were no agreements constructed. It was completely an open conversation. And this was also discussed with the vice chair before I initiated that conversation. And that conversation took place today. And that's what the report to the board on that. With that said, I'm going to minimize this. Does anybody have any questions or concerns regarding that? Larry?
Nothing on what you said, Pete. No.
Great. George?
Pardon me, I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry. Any questions or concerns on what I just reported?
No, I didn't.
Okay, great. Leslie?
Nothing.
Great. Woody?
No, not at all, Peter.
Wonderful. Mary?
No, Pete.
Okay, beautiful. Then what I would like to do is I would like to ask the applicant if he has anything new to present to the board.
Yes, I do. Can you hear me okay?
You sure can, Tom.
Okay, this is Tom Zarico, 15 SD Street in Amesbury. Phil Henry from Civil Design Group is also here for maybe 15 or 20 minutes if we need him for any technical responses or clarification of anything on the plan. Just in the way of updates, we have not submitted a revised plan because, as we have mentioned in the past, we've kept note and been revising plans. We didn't want to submit new plans in multiple copies until we felt like we had something that was consistent and agreed with for not only for planning but also Concom. We've been going through the Concom hearings as well, side by side or concurrently. We think that we've made a number of revisions to the plan pursuant to Concom input and or public input. In fact, part of that has been adding to the landscape plan some 80 or 90 additional plantings that in the buffer zone where we're going to be disturbing some existing vegetation. Those will show up on the final plan and will be submitted and discussed with Concom at their next meeting. I think what we're trying to accomplish at this point so that we can devise or complete those final plans and give responses to the outside peer review responses. We've already given initial responses to which Joe has responded, and there's nothing of consequence there other than what we will discuss tonight, hopefully to try to resolve loose ends that that he may have brought up or the board may have brought up. From my perspective, I think the things that are critical to try to nail down at this point are the lot count, which we've discussed on a number of occasions, the public or private nature of the roadway, understanding that that's a process and only a recommendation potentially from the planning board, if it's intended to be public. We have a short list of waivers. None of those are new. Those have all been an integral part of the plan since day one. I don't think we've had any significant discussion about those, but we just want to make sure that those are not at issue. And along with those items are the question of parking for access to the open space. If it's a public way, and parking and utilities are items that we can or the parking is something we can add to the plan. There's space enough for 4 parking spaces in the island of the cul-de-sac, if in fact that's something that makes sense to do. And again, I think that ties back into the public or private nature of the street itself. So with that, I guess I'd like to try to resolve the lot count of the public-private roadway and any details that we think are still lingering.
Okay, great, Tom. Let me see if the board members have anything what was just presented. Larry?
Well, as far as number of lots, I guess that's still to be discussed probably as we go through this process tonight. As far as the roadway being public or private, it's been my experience with this board in the 2.5 years I've been on it, that for these short cul-de-sacs, we generally do not recommend that they be accepted as public ways. And especially where you're looking for waivers on the dimensions, roadway dimensions. And that to me is a very important point. As far as the parking goes, I think that needs to be discussed in some further detail. And I know at one point, Tom, I think you talked about doing it in the cul-de-sac. I don't think, for one thing, that would be acceptable to public safety. And it seems to me that there's only a couple of places we could think about parking for the public. One would be off the neck that creates, that goes from the end of the cul-de-sac to the backland, to the open space. Or and maybe getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I know your plan is to move that, I forget how you call it, studio, I think, towards the street. I'm not sure what the thinking is on that or why you would want to do that. And I wonder if we couldn't.
Larry, I'm just going to have you repeat that because we just lost your audio there a little bit.
I'm sorry. I was just looking for the, on lot 7, you have that studio, I think it's referred to, that you are proposing to move closer to Coleman Road. I'm not quite sure what that's intended to accomplish. So maybe you can talk about that. And I wonder if there isn't some portion of lot 7 that couldn't be kept in the ownership of the condominium association and perhaps provide some parking adjacent to Coleman Road. We'd also need to think about, how the public is going to get to the backland though. So, that's my thinking at the moment on those issues.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Larry. George, any thoughts, comments?
Yeah, Larry picked up on my public safety item, the parking within the cul-de-sac itself and the island in the center. I don't think fire or other emergency services would be happy about that because if heavy equipment has to go in and turn around in the cul-de-sac, the fact of the matter is the cars can't be moved quickly enough probably by whoever owns them and park them there. So I think they would really balk at that such situation. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much, George. I appreciate that. Leslie,
I agree. I do agree with Larry and George as far as, well, especially the parking. I don't see that makes a big difference for that particular neighborhood. It's a great idea, but as far as like bringing additional traffic into the area, I don't know if it's the best idea. That's all. Thank you.
thanks, Leslie. Woody,
I agree with Larry on the parking in the cul-de-sac and possibly being a public safety issue, and also it being a public roadway at all. I think it should remain private because that's what the board's been doing in the past. And if we're going to do all this open space out back, I really think that people will utilize it. And I think that we need to provide parking for people. So on that, that's how I feel about that. And that's it for now.
okay. Thank you, Woody. Mary, your thoughts?
I don't have anything to add to what has come before me. It's all very good. Thank you. I agree with that.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Larry, let me just tease out that your thought there on parking either at the neck or at the entry point of Lot 7. Is your thought that something happened with that structure, or what?
Well, I'm just wondering, I think it might be desirable to keep as much of the what's the word I'm looking for? The view from Coleman. Keep the open space feel, of the property as it's viewed from Coleman Road. And when I was thinking of a couple of things, by putting parking down there, of course, and I suppose that maybe is, I'm sorry, I'm not expressing myself very well. I wonder what the point is of moving that studio closer to the road. And I'm thinking with keeping some portion of Lot 7 in the association, that some portion of Lot 7 that abuts Coleman Road, you might, if we can find a way to direct people to the back open space, then that might be an appropriate place for some parking, especially given Mr. Zarico's concern that he's expressed in the past about people driving on what's essentially a private way.
Right.
It's been my experience, it's very common to have public access over a private way, but I'm thinking of two things. One, trying to perhaps preserve the view from Coleman Road, and secondly, perhaps trying to address his concern at the same time. And those may be inconsistent goals, but right now I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
Interesting.
If that helps or hurts, but
Let
answers the question.
me ask Tom. This continues to be a evolving discussion that we have here. It gets more and more interesting. What would you think about what Larry's kind of bringing to the table for discussion of doing? Are you thinking like Larry, gravel, parking, country style?
Yeah, anything that would perhaps meet his concerns while at the same time keeping the country feel of the place.
So basically parking would be on this site, cars wouldn't be traveling down the roadway.
Correct.
Access to the back would be by foot.
Right. I mean, you'd have to be some signage or something to direct people, but it's an alternative to putting it off that neck. That's the only other place I can see it.
So, Tom. what do you
Yes. Okay, a couple of things. The first thing regarding the studio, Larry, I mean, that initially when we looked at this property, that I didn't think that had any, or had a lot of significance. I listened to input from other folks, including the planning board. And there seemed to be some sensitivity to that building being preserved. It exists right in the heart of the proposed roadway, so it can't stay there. So the idea was to move it into a location that would keep it visible along with the other buildings, not necessarily make it prominent, but keep it within the same scene with slightly different orientation. So that was the reason for putting it there and for moving it, Larry. It was in response to what I perceived and understood to be a sensitivity to keeping that building.
I'm not suggesting the building should be destroyed. Just maybe find a different home for it.
On site.
Yeah.
Well, I that's not something that I had really given much thought to. I guess we'd have to think about that. And with regard to the parking, I just want to make sure that something is clear on that in terms of what I had proposed. The cul-de-sac is an island cul-de-sac. Vehicular access, including all emergency vehicles, have plenty of room on the paved surface to circle around that cul-de-sac without any conflict or issue. The cul-de-sac is 60 feet in diameter. There's certainly plenty of room for parking spaces in that island without any interference at all with paved surfaces or access at any time. So the intent was that's an area that's already disturbed or gonna be disturbed with that cul-de-sac. That island really doesn't have a function other than to eliminate asphalt that is unnecessary. So that island being that large has plenty of capacity for standard 10 by 20 parking spaces that we would typically put. And that location is proximate to the pedestrian access to the open space, which is, to me, if there is going to be parking, that's where it should be, at its closest access point.
Okay. Martha, do you have a sense from public safety? Have we ever had parking? I don't know of any parking that we've ever had on an island on a cul-de-sac. Are you aware of anything?
I can't think of anything offhand. I could certainly ask public safety how they deal with that. And Tom, I apologize. Do you actually have a sketch of how that might work?
I do have a sketch of how that might work. I'm looking for it right now. If you can bear with me. Bill, do you happen to have a sketch? I think I might have emailed you something. I'm not sure.
And
Yeah,
you're
I
not,
could-
I'm
I
sorry.
could
you're
try
not-
to, I could try to pull it up right now.
I will enable you to do that. You're not planning to use that as any part of your stormwater management, right?
No, there'll still be a catch basin there.
Right.
But
Right. But since you're not doing LID, it's not a rain garden or anything like that.
that's right. All right, I have it up, although I have about 2 more minutes until I have to jump off, so I could share my screen if that's okay, Tom.
Yes.
Let's see, share screen. Do you guys see this?
Yes, we can see it, Tom.
Yes.
Just for the record, Chris Huntress didn't sketch that. But again, you can see, it fits very comfortably. It can be easily screened and nicely landscaped, without any interference to anything. It's really, in my estimation, an ideal, or the right location.
And what would the surface be? Were you thinking gravel, grass pavers?
Yeah, typically, we've built a number of parking lots at ball field areas that we've constructed in North Andover, for instance. And what we typically do is provide a compacted gravel base, put a relatively thin, maybe 2 or so inches of loam over that, and a hardy grass mix that survives very well without maintenance and holds up well to the minimal traffic. So it would be grassed with a firm base.
So that space wouldn't be cleared in the wintertime then?
No, and it wouldn't under any circumstances, if we were to put parking anywhere, particularly if it were going to be private, Peter, I don't think it's something that, this is one of the challenges, I guess, that I see with public access to private spaces or vice versa, or over private spaces is, the question of maintenance, the question of liability. Those are real questions that come up with that interplay of public and private.
Larry,
And Phil, I know you have to go, Phil. I appreciate you spending a couple of minutes and showing that.
No worries.
yes, thank you, Phil. I just want to, Larry, your thoughts on that?
But my concern would be, keeping people from parking on the cul-de-sac itself. Maybe my idea of putting the parking down by Coleman Road is not the best, but I really think then in the absence of that, it's got to go off that neck somewhere for my money. Now, maybe we need some input from public safety, and that might inform our decision. But back to that issue of, I guess, would that be the westerly end of Lot 7 on Coleman Road or whatever it is? I would still like to see some effort made to keep that appearance of open space, maybe some, tree buffers or something there, so that, we have this wonderful old 17th century building here that's going to be rehabbed, and don't want it to look like it's part of a subdivision from Coleman Road, I think. So I'd like to see something done with that area to keep it sort of open. But I am still concerned about the idea of putting parking right in the turnaround in the itself.
Okay, thank you.
Murphy's Law, if it can go wrong, it will. And I can see people parking on the cul-de-sac, people showing up with a car full of kids and all 4 parking spaces are taken. So they get creative in their parking.
I'm trying to imagine, Larry, just how many spaces, if the studio building were not on Lot 7. I don't know how many spaces. It's not that we could have a large number of spaces any place there. Anyway, just looking at dimensions and I don't know with a pull off into a parking area, which, eats up space just in terms of the access. I don't know if we can get any more spaces in there anyway. I mean, and then are people gonna end up parking near the intersection in that scenario? Because they're directed to be in that area. I don't see that as a,
I'm thinking you put it like on the north side of block 3, something like that. But
So the intention, I think, is probably, is it still to keep right about four parking spaces, right? Is that what I'm sensing?
are you asking me, Pete?
Yeah, well, I'm asking anyone on the board right now.
That's the
Four
way it
parking
sounds
spaces.
to me.
Well, let me run down the board so we have order. I'm gonna start, Larry. Is your thought about 4 spaces?
I mean, if you got room, I'd do 6, but
Okay, all right. George, your thoughts?
I question sometimes after a couple of months, how many people are going to use it at any given point in time. It might not be used at all. So I think 4 spaces might be excessive. 2 would be better, I think. In terms of development, there's not that much room to do it.
Okay, so we have 4 to 6. We have 2. Leslie, what do you think?
Who's to say that there isn't a neighborhood large gathering and the guests take up all the parking spaces because they're there? Is this a true selling point for Coleman Road to have this accessibility for people to walk through the woods? Or don't we have enough open space already that people have that ability to take advantage of it?
Well, I think one of the things that we're doing is part of the OSRD, and this is an ideal site for an OSRD, is for people to have public access. So we're wanting to create that. And I would think once it was recognized and people learned about it, because the trail system is beautiful back there. I mean, Tom, when we walked it, I just thought to myself, this is just a gorgeous piece of property. And I think once people find out that it's a wonderful place to walk and it's part of the history and culture of what makes Newbury, it'll be utilized because it's a section of Newbury that doesn't exist otherwise. It's large path.
Well, I do agree with you on that, Pete. I do
Yeah.
agree with you on that. I just, I look at it sometimes as, if it's going to be a private way and I'm going to be a homeowner down in that area, what liability cost is it going to put in my direction? And what does the homeowners that live there, sometimes we look out our back door and we don't even realize how beautiful it is because we don't take advantage of it. If it goes in the direction of yes, I think, yeah, additional parking spaces would be a much better idea. And to really work hard to not allow anybody to park along the roadside on Coleman Road, because that's a tough corner.
So let me get back to the original question. I'm trying to get a feel for what you think would be adequate parking. 3 spaces, 4 spaces, 6 spaces?
Six.
I'm sorry?
6.
6, okay. What are your thoughts, sir?
I think 4 spaces minimum, and I've been thinking as this has gone on here, you bring up a good point with the burden of snow, Peter, and using the island. And Larry bringing up maybe having the parking, a gravel parking out by the road near where we're talking about moving the studio would alleviate any distractions to anyone that's living there. The slamming doors, car doors, and things like that. And then Snow brought up another point that I think those trail systems could be used by people that want to cross-country ski in the winter. And I think that 4 spaces minimum would be sufficient. And out by the road, it would be less distracting for the people that live
Okay, cool, thank you. Mary, what are your thoughts?
I think 4 is plenty, and I don't see a big rush of the public to the site. I think it fits with everything that we require the contractor to do with the open space. I think 4 is fine. I think it would have to be regulated as to who parks there and who doesn't use it. In other words, it has to be for use of the trails and the public lands. Moving a building is expensive. And that could, and that may or may not be done, but I think 4 spaces, yes. That's the answer to my question. Final answer.
Okay, thanks. Martha, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. My gut feeling is that 4 spaces is the right number for this. I think 6 feels a little excessive to me. I think 4 is appropriate.
Okay. All right, Tom, going back to your circle, the number of spaces in the circle seem to be very appropriate. I guess the concern is, do you want the parking in the middle of what will be your development, or would you like it on the exterior of it? And then have people just do pedestrian walking to get to it? Would that, I mean, that's a whole different, conversation that we haven't had with, is that a more?
Yeah, I
palatable-
guess there's a couple of different elements,
Yeah.
a couple of different comments that relate to that. Is that studio building important? Again, I only proposed that move in response to expressed concern or interest in having that building preserved or rebuilt. I mean, Mary, you're right, it's expensive, and that building is not in great shape. I mean, it's very possible that moving it's not going to make it that 100 feet. It's not a, it's not in great shape. So, I'm sorry.
No, something just popped in my head. If you are going to be in the moving business of moving a house, as they used to move houses all the time in the 40s and 50s, what if it went into where the open space would be, and into a flat area there? I don't remember where the foundation for the old Mink building used to be. Is that on lot 4?
Yeah, that's in the vicinity of lot 4. Yeah, that in fact, it's I'll have to look back here to see in the demolition plan, but that's partially on lot 4 and partially on the public access, I think.
Would it make sense to move it back there?
No, I don't.
No, to what end? To what end?
It preserves the culture of the building, and it's an entry point to a historical pathway in Newbury.
Well, we would have to really modify
Yeah.
terrain out there to do that, and it's not something we've ever thought about or conceived of. It's a very different move, and it creates a different challenge for me.
In terms of historic significance, wouldn't a building in situ be more appropriate as opposed to moving it and then explaining where it used to be?
Say that again. I'm sorry, Mary.
If you move an historic building to a new site, don't you have to explain where it used to be and why it's been moved?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just leave it where it is? Because historically, that's where it was.
Yeah, it's right in the middle of the road where the road would be for Tom, and that's the issue. And so he was trying to be sensitive to our interest in trying to maintain some of the historical component. Now, the Historical Society, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, Martha, have they weighed in on the significance of this building?
I don't recall them making any comments on the significance of this building.
Yeah.
And I do remember when we were out at site, Tom did, we talked about interest in it, but Tom did say that it's not in the best shape and might not survive a move.
Right.
So I guess that kind of brings up the question then, if it's going to have to be rebuilt, so it's not what it is now, then that may lose some of its significance.
And Tom, you spoke with historical. What did they tell you?
They actually didn't comment on this building.
Okay.
But in saying that, they may not have commented on it because by the time they gave their feedback, we had already proposed to either move or rebuild it in that location. So they may have been comfortable with that, with that activity, or may have been unconcerned in any regard. But there was no comment either way. There wasn't any feedback on that building. Okay. One of the other things, I'm not sure, parking, trying to create parking in that there is not as much space there as I think some members feel there might be to try to create parking down there. I mean, it's not a big area, and it would create an immediate access point right after you turn in off of Coleman Road. There'd be an immediate turn in to a parking area if we tried to put something on the front of lot 7. I mean, it would be, it'd be 2 car lengths from Coleman Road. I don't think that's a practical or safe thing to do. I don't think that's the right or safe thing to do at that location. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. I mean, it would be no more than 30 feet, maybe 35 feet from Coleman to where you'd be turning in there. I don't think that's safe.
So you're more comfortable with the pull-in, go to the end of the cul-de-sac for parking to occur. You're more comfortable with that from a safety standpoint, from your design.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I mean, from my perspective, I mean, and I don't see how we gain. I don't see how we gain even, or I mean, try to envision how you would pull into a parking area there on 7. You have to have an access way. You have to have the ability to turn a vehicle. You have to have the ability to multi-point turn it out. I don't think you're going to even get 4 spaces in there unless I eliminated the house, which was not a well, it certainly is not an option that I would consider a reasonable option, a reasonable trade-off.
Okay.
I mean, that would sort of lead me to suggest why are we better off? Are we better off with just a conventional plan as in the yield plan?
So
and
before we go there, Tom, I'm just going to say that we have 2 hearings that are supposed to start at 7:15. I just want to let the public know that those hearings will follow when we conclude this discussion. Okay, so back, Tom, to you. Maybe this discussion point is just a discussion point that is explored further. Maybe it would be best to continue on with the other points of this plan so that we can give you more direction, because I know that was something that was very important to you from the last meeting. So I want to try to adhere to that. Is that okay with you?
Yep. Okay.
Cool. With that, Martha, have you received any public comments since the last hearing?
No, I have not.
Okay, cool. Are there any public comments thus far to what has been discussed or what has been raised in the previous hearings? Is there anyone out there, Martha?
We do have Amanda and Dale, I can't see their last name, who have had their hand up for a while.
All right, Amanda and Dale, if you wouldn't mind, first name and last name and address, please. Thanks so much.
It's actually Gary McCausland. The address is 27 Coleman Road, lived here for 22 years and are a direct abutter to the property.
Hi, Gary. How are you tonight?
Good. Just a couple of comments, and just from an observer standpoint, the discussion doesn't directly impact my property, but I guess I'm a little confused that my understanding is the scope of the development wouldn't warrant it to be a public road. But yet, on the other hand, there's a lot of discussion around making arrangements for parking because of the traffic and the demand from the public coming into that area. And that just seems to be, for lack of a politically correct term, kind of hypocritical, or seems to be on both sides of the equation, if you will.
Okay.
Secondly, and I've lived here for 22 years. My vision, and maybe I'm naive and don't understand the marketing plan for the open space, but I think the open space is going to be primarily used for folks that are within walking distance. My neighbors here nearby and in the other streets that abut Coleman Road, they would walk over there and walk to the trails as opposed to bringing their vehicles and parking and creating additional traffic. I'd be surprised if people from out of town or the other side of town are making this a destination and driving and coming here. So there's just some observations.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate your comments and participating. What the board is trying to do is, if we are creating open space for the town and for the community, we're just trying to have an avenue of access for that. And if people do come and try to drive to the site, it's not unprecedented that there would be parking and public access over private lands, as Larry has indicated, does exist. And that's kind of the configuration used in the past, and that's what probably would be following here. So that's just to kind of address that question that you raised.
Okay.
Thank you.
Doesn't make sense, but I appreciate the response.
Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate you participating tonight. Martha, who do you have next? Martha, you're muted.
Sorry, Paula Piccolo.
Hi, Paula. First name and last name and address, please. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm actually Richard Piccolo.
Hi, Richard Piccolo.
And I'm using my wife's computer. I live at 92 Caldwell Farm Road. And I applaud the developer of putting aside this amount of land. And I would hope the town, works well with him to assure that that land gets really put aside. Secondly, I sort of agree with the idea that it's going to be we walk a lot and we see a lot of walkers. And I think that land, if anything, is going to be used by pedestrians. And that said, I think the 4 spaces are more than adequate for that land. And that's the comment I have. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks for your comment and your participation tonight. The board does appreciate it. Who do we have next, Martha?
Somebody with initials DJS.
Hi, Dave Strocker, Green Tree Lane. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I'm sorry, your name again?
Dave Strocker.
Thank you, Dave.
Great. Thank you. During the discussion about the parking spots, Mr. Knight mentioned that he was prone to moving them up front so that car door slamming, et cetera, don't bother the people buying into these new properties. That's a little bothersome because it doesn't take into account those of us that already live in the neighborhood and the already existing neighbors who bought in without that. Moving it up front is going to be disturbing to the residents on the end of Longbrook, Coleman Road, et cetera. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments and participating with the board tonight. Martha, do you have anyone else?
No, I don't see anyone else.
Okay, great. Tom, any concerns right now? Because I do want to try to go further with your development here.
Yeah, no, I think just, all of these comments I think are legitimate comments. I mean, we've created spaces and access at so many projects over our history. The island idea, we gave a lot of thought to it. It's to me logical, easily accessible, the least disturbing, the safest way to do it. To Woody's comment about cross-country skiing, I mean, no matter where there would be parking, it would never be cleared during a storm for anybody anyway, as private space. So I don't think, I mean, I appreciate that comment, and I'd love to think that people would be out there cross-country skiing, but expecting parking spots to be cleared during that season is I don't think is realistic. So I think it's, what we proposed is as good as it gets, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, good. Thanks. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Board, I'd like to kind of shoot down to see if what has been discussed and what has been submitted helps us with the understanding of the OSRD submission. So the first question is the yield plan. Has the applicant provided an appropriate yield plan? And I just want to ask the board this question and kind of go down through the survey just so we can start to give direction to the applicant. Larry, your thoughts on that?
At first blush, the yield plan looks okay, but one of the things and Tom, maybe you can help me out with this. I'm wrestling with a little bit here is it's pretty bare bones. I mean, there's not a lot of information in the yield plan. And for example, at least on the yield plan itself, maybe it's elsewhere in these plans that I don't find, but I don't see where the building envelopes would be for the 5 lots in the yield plan, or where there would be viable septic systems. And why I think that's important is when you consider some of the findings we have to make regarding the OSRD. We have to find that it encourages a less sprawling and more efficient form of development, minimize the total amount of disturbance on the site. So, obviously 7 house sites are going to cause greater disturbance than 5, and to facilitate the construction and maintenance of housing, utilities, et cetera, in an economic manner. So I guess what I'm saying is, if all of those 5 houses, for lack of a better term, clustered around the cul-de-sac, are we really meeting any of those objections? So Tom, can you talk to that a little bit? I mean, where would the houses be located? Where have you had successful perks? We know that you've had successful perks, I believe, where the 7 lots of the OSRD are proposed, but
Yeah, those Larry, those perks and depot tests are all documented in the plan set on each of those 5 yield lots. The perks are obviously they vary a little bit, but so the sizing of systems would vary, but these lots, are the yield lots are substantial in size, and I mean, it's very self-evident, I think, that, a septic system and houses of, in some cases, enormous size, or in other cases, more very typical size can easily fit on any of those lots based on where the test pits are located that are successful.
oh, no question. What I'm sort of getting at is, are you going to have 300-foot driveways for some of these, or are they going to be up by the cul-de-sac? Where would you put them? If you were building this yield plan, where would you put the houses?
Well, the lot 3 and lot 4 would be on the far side. They would be in what is proposed as open space in the OSRD, Larry. So
Okay.
those houses would have long driveways. Yes, they'd be 300 plus or minus foot driveways for sure.
Well, that's what I was looking for. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we have an existing crossing there that may have to be enhanced, but it's very routine and very, very permittable for that kind of a thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, George, your feelings as to whether there's an applicable yield plan?
Yeah, I have no adverse comments with the yield plan. I find that acceptable.
Beautiful, thank you, George. Leslie?
I don't have any adverse.
Okay, great. Thank you. Woody?
Thank you.
No, I find it to be an acceptable yield plan.
Okay, great, thank you. And Mary?
Acceptable.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay, so let's go to the next component. With regards to the open space, does the proposed open space meet the bylaw requirements of 50% of upland? Larry?
Yes, as far as I can see.
Beautiful. George?
Yes,
Great. Leslie?
Yes.
Great. Woody?
Yes.
Great. Mary?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Let's talk about bonus units. Based upon the open space calculation, the applicant is requesting 2 bonus units based on the amount of open space. Even though we have an applicant who is eligible for 2 bonus units, is a second bonus unit appropriate for the site? So that's, I guess, a question I want to make. I'm sure I'm constructing this appropriately. And Martha, help me with this if this question that I'm asking is out of line.
No, I mean, as we previously discussed, based on the amount of open space or upland that's being set aside, he is eligible for the 2 bonus units, but those are discretionary on the part of the board. So, I think it's appropriate to weigh that request among everything else.
Okay. So I'd like to get a feel from board members whether it appears that this project is eligible for 2 units, and that the second unit is appropriate, considering what we've talked about and some of our concerns with regards to the open space of the front that has been discussed. Larry, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, let me ask you, what was the conclusion, if you had one, of your discussion about an affordable unit?
Larry, there was no conclusion. There was just a discussion. I don't know what Tom's thought is on that. I haven't asked him for that. I was just, as you know, I'm passionate about trying to develop affordable units any way possible in this town, and it's very difficult because most of our developers are just really interested in doing larger scale homes, and it makes it unaffordable. So that's what promoted my passionate conversation with Tom, and I appreciate his patience in listening through it. I don't know, Tom, if you want to answer Larry's query.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of hanging out there for people's discussion at this point. I think, first of all, I'm very open-minded. I have not had a long time to consider or look at the financial consequences of that, because they are quite substantial when we commit a unit to affordable housing, whether it's low or moderate income. I guess the long and the short of it is, I have a pretty good history in creating some affordable housing. I certainly make a good faith effort to dialogue that. I don't want to have an open-ended, I guess, discussion that goes on forever about it. But I would be open to dialoguing about that, to see if there is some way of for instance, maybe converting or identifying the primary residence there, the existing residence, as a moderate income affordable unit. It may, again, there's a lot for me to think about there. There's a lot for me to evaluate there. I guess the only thing I would say is that I have a history of being creative. I have a history of being open-minded. I could certainly look at that and consider it and dialogue it in good faith. But I wouldn't. I don't know that right now I can't sit here and say yes, I can do that. I just it's a big impact on the project. And again, just in the way of I guess reinforcing where I come from on this. I mean, there's 11 identified goals of the OSRD. I think we've been very deliberate about, and in a grand way, in fact, in most cases, satisfying 10 of them. Sometimes we can't do everything. I'd love to think that I could, but I think we've done a tremendous job with this plan, with the concepts, with all of the input and feedback that we've gotten. And I think all I can say is I would continue to try to make that work if if we got some willing people to dialogue that with me. But that's not an answer, but it's honest.
Well, I appreciate the honesty, Tom, and I encourage future dialogue on perhaps making the original structure, as you suggest, maybe a moderate, affordable a component to this project. That's a very interesting approach. George, your thoughts on the bonus calculation and the 2-unit allowance or
I
consideration?
would have 2 allowed, although I've been intrigued by Larry's comments about dialoguing about affordable housing. I guess my question is how would you handle that right now at another meeting? You'd have it specifically for that? Because if there's going to be a dialogue, there has to be one for people to give it more consideration. That's where I stop.
Well, yes, I guess if you're considering making that a condition or of the other unit, then I wouldn't want to leave that open. I wouldn't want to leave it open-ended. I wouldn't want to have it imposed on me at this stage of the dialogue, but I also don't want to delay the conclusion of a discussion that's been, I think, a very good and professional and positive discussion. But I also think that there's no major issues here that we haven't vetted pretty well. So I would prefer not to leave it as an open item that determines the ultimate destiny or design of this project.
Does that answer your question, George?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Leslie, your thought on the 2-unit bonus calculation consideration?
Pete, I actually share your passion for affordable housing. I think it opens the door to invite more diversity of people that come into the community. If there is a way, and this isn't anything that has to be shoved down somebody's throat, but if there was a way to make that original structure into even a 2-family development for affordable housing, that would be a great idea, and that would leave all the other lots open for full development.
So does that mean 2?
Hold on, Leslie, you just raised something. I want to ask Martha, is that feasible to do, Martha?
Well, if I understand that correctly, that would mean essentially 8 units. And under the OSRD bylaw, there's a 50% cap rounded down based on the yield plan. So with a yield of 5, the most he can have is 2 bonus units for a total of 7.
Okay.
Right. That's what I thought.
Okay. So Leslie, I understand where you're going, and I wish we had a pathway to divide that and assist Tom with that. But I don't know if we can with our restrictions of our current design of our bylaw.
I understand.
Yep. Okay, cool. So your thoughts on the 2 units?
My thoughts on the 2 units, I don't really have a problem with it. I just would like, I guess, like the idea of putting or placing something more into the open space was kind of a cool idea, which would draw the eye into the open space and give people a more familiarity on what is available to them out there.
Okay. All right. Mary, your thoughts on the 2 bonus unit concept and position. Tell me what your thoughts are.
I think the 2 bonus units could be granted. Tom has used the word creative. I would appreciate Tom, I also hear Tom saying no to the moderate housing, but that's just a meta message. I could be wrong. If Tom could be creative about affordable or moderate housing, I think that the 2 bonus units should be granted if Tom will consider seriously the moderate housing piece. It's not a condition, but again, the word creative was used, and marketing is a huge consideration here for moderate housing in this kind of a development. But Tom could give it some creative thought. I would be amenable to the 2 units.
I want to go on to the concept of purpose and intent. Is the proposed OSRD consistent with the purpose and intent of the OSRD bylaws? Because we discussed those in the past, and I just want to kind of get a summary feeling of that. Do you feel that that is the case, Larry?
Overall, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Beautiful. George, your thoughts, sir?
Yes, no thoughts.
Beautiful. Leslie, your thoughts?
I'm all set.
Beautiful. Woody, where'd you go? Oh, you're over there. You moved on the screen. I'm sorry. What are your thoughts?
I don't have a thought on that.
Okay. Mary?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Beautiful. With regards to the design process, has the design kind of kept in concert with the OSRD philosophical approach? Do you want to comment on this, Martha, at all, just to help with the discussion?
Sure. So the approach is that they need to go through essentially 4 steps for that. So identifying the primary conservation areas and secondary conservation areas, identifying the house lots, setting up the road. And so having kind of walked through the process with them, my own feeling is that they have followed that process and met those requirements.
Great. Thank you. Thoughts on that, Larry?
No, I'm fine with it.
Beautiful. George?
No problems.
Okay. Leslie?
I'm all set.
Beautiful. Woody?
I'm good.
Beautiful. Mary?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, great. So let's talk about waivers. And I want to go first. Larry, I want you to help me with your thoughts on the way. Well, hold on. Martha, could you just tell us what the waivers are, just so the board will have those all fresh in memory?
Actually, if Tom, if you have those
Oh.
right at
I can
hand.
share my screen.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're right here. If you want me to just read them, I can do that. It's on page 2 of the plan set. The first is to reduce the area and frontage from the required residential zoning, dimensional regulations of 40,000 square feet and 125 linear feet of frontage respectively. The second is,
So I want to do these one at a time, Tom.
okay,
Yep,
I'm sorry.
beautiful. And yep, beautiful, just so I can poll people. Larry, any problem with that?
No, I don't. I have no problem with that.
Beautiful. George, any problem with that?
No problems.
Beautiful. Leslie, any problem with that?
No.
Beautiful. Woody, any problems with that?
No.
Okay, Mary? Okay,
All
beautiful.
set. Thank you.
And I just want to ask from Martha's perspective, any concerns?
No, I mean, that's something typically.
Yep. I always ask the town planner at this point in the discussion, any engineering components that I might have missed in the discussion. Okay, the second waiver, Tom.
okay, trees over 6 inches in diameter that are expected to be removed. There are hundreds of trees, obviously, in this front area. We've discussed this before. To mark them all when they're virtually all in that development area going. It seems impractical to mark those that are going because they need to go for the development to happen.
Okay, understand. George, Larry, your thoughts?
No, I'm fine with that waiver.
Beautiful. George, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Tom. That's fine.
Beautiful, thank you. Leslie, your thoughts?
I'm okay.
Great. Woody, your thoughts?
I agree as well.
Beautiful. Mary, your thoughts?
It's okay.
Okay, and Martha, you're also comfortable with that as well as from our discussions previously, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're showing the tree line, I think, where the existing tree line is and where it will be. And I'm sure the extent of work will be shown or staked out. So I'm fine with that.
Beautiful. Okay, our third waiver, please, Tom.
It's an environmental analysis due to the small scale of the project, waivers requested for that, obviously.
Right, okay. Larry?
I'm okay with that waiver.
Beautiful, George?
I'm okay.
Great, thanks you. Leslie?
I'm good.
Beautiful, thank you. Woody?
Same, I'm good.
Beautiful, thank you. Mary?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, great. Tom, next waiver, please.
General layout and dimensions of the roadway, seeking reduction of the following to reduce the disturbed area on the site. The right-of-way width from 53 to 40 feet and the cul-de-sac diameter from 165 down to 140 with the paved diameter from 126 down to 120.
Larry, your thoughts?
Yes, with the understanding that it remains private.
George, your thoughts?
Yeah, I concur with Larry.
Okay. Leslie, your thoughts?
Yeah, privacy is important. Yes.
Okay. Woody, your thoughts?
I agree with what's already been said.
Okay. Mary?
Yep, nothing to add.
Okay. Additional waivers?
Okay, there's only 6. This is number 5. Utilities proposing to use high-density polyethylene piping instead of reinforced concrete pipe for drainage only. Pretty standard in today's world.
Understand. Larry, any concerns with that waiver?
Yeah, I understand. I believe Tom's right. It's a fairly standard request these days.
Beautiful.
I'm fine with it.
Thank you, sir. George, your thoughts?
I have no problem with that.
Beautiful. Leslie?
All set.
Beautiful. Thank you. Woody?
Sounds good.
Great. And Mary?
Fine.
Beautiful. Your next waiver, Tom.
And the final waiver request is for sidewalks, the lack of the sidewalks on the adjacent streets and in consideration of preserving the on-site trails out back. So that's rationale.
Beautiful. Okay. Larry?
Yes.
You're comfortable with that. Okay. George?
Yes.
You're comfortable with that. Okay. Leslie?
Yes.
You're comfortable with that as well. Woody?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
Beautiful. And Mary?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, great. That's the end of the waivers?
That's correct.
Beautiful. Okay. So I guess then the next question is the roadway public or private? And I think, Tom, you kind of got from the second to the last waiver that the board feels that with the waiver consideration, it should probably remain a private way. And that would be the recommendation of the board, I think, at this point in time.
Yeah, I did see it. I did sense that from the comments. Yes.
Okay, great. Let's talk about. We're going to try to circle back. Hold on. Before we go back to circling back to the concept of this parking issue, what's the thought of the ownership of the open space and the holder of the conservancy restriction? What's the thought process? Before we start there, Martha, what are the options with that?
Well, for the ownership of the open space, it could be, held by the town. It could be held by a nonprofit such as Essex County Greenbelt. It could be held by the homeowners association. And ideally, there would be a conservation restriction on it that would be held again by a nonprofit or by, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, by the town's conservation commission.
Larry, let me ask you your thoughts on that.
Well, I want to be candid. I'm echoing a discussion I had with Martha, but it seems like the homeowners association with the conservation restriction is probably the only viable solution here. My understanding is that a nonprofit like Greenbelt is likely not going to be interested because it doesn't connect with any of their other property. And I don't know that there's any appetite in the town for the town or conservation commission to own it outright. So I think the homeowners association is probably the logical way to go with this.
Okay, thank you. George, your thoughts?
I agree. I guess I have a liability issue in the background, but that would be taken care of by the general insurance that covers the association, I would believe.
Okay, thank you, George. Leslie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the HOA should have some considerable input on something like that. That, you know, that if it's going to be an open space, they should have a loud voice to be able to use.
Okay, Woody, your thoughts?
I agree with what's pretty much already been said. Larry brought up a good point that it doesn't connect to anything with Greenbelt that already exists surrounding it, and the homeowners association would probably be the best fit there.
Okay, Mary, your thoughts?
Liability is a very important issue, and the homeowners association is best suited to deal with it.
Okay,
May I make one comment regarding the liability?
please do, Martha.
And if the open space is open to the public and used by the public, there is recreational use law that basically governs, as long as he's not charging for the public to use that space for, you know, for passive recreation. So that's a similar situation with other open space pieces that we have in town.
Oh,
Okay, thank you for that that insight. Okay. With regards to our decision criteria, does this meet our decision criteria? Martha, do we want to pop that decision criteria up just so we can shoot through it?
Sure, let me see if
'Cause I do want to try to give Tom as much direction since he needs that.
And I don't know if you're going to take any other public comment. I do see one raised hand. It's so just.
Okay. Yep, I think we'll get there. Let's just kind of spin through this decision criteria if we could, if you could pull it up.
All right, are you able to see that?
Momentarily, I'm hopeful. Yes.
Okay,
And if we can enlarge it just a touch.
yes, I will do that.
Scotch.
Okay. So,
I'm gonna scroll down to the decision criteria.
okay, great. So we have 7 points. The planning board may grant a special permit for an OSRD if it is determined that the proposed OSRD has less detrimental impact on the tract than the conventional development proposed for the tract. After considering the following facts: 1, whether the OSRD achieves greater flexibility and creativity in the design and residential or unit development than the conventional plan. I just want to poll. Where are you with this, Larry?
Yes, I'm fine with it.
Thank you, George.
I'm fine.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yes.
Thank you, Woody.
Yes,
Thank you. And
Fine. Fine.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, number 2, whether the OSRD promotes permanent preservation of open space, agricultural land, forestry land, other natural resources, including water bodies and wetlands, and historic and archaeological resources. Larry?
It certainly promotes preservation of open space.
Wonderful. Thank you. George?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you, Woody.
yes,
Thank you, Mary.
yes, it's very
Okay.
good.
Beautiful. Whether the number 3, whether the OSRD promotes a less sprawling, more efficient form of development that consumes less open land and conforms to existing topography and natural features better than a conventional subdivision. Where are you with that, Larry?
I'm fine. I'm fine with it. Yes,
Beautiful.
I agree.
Great. Thank you, George.
I agree.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yes.
Thank you, Woody.
yes, I agree.
Thank you, Mary.
Agreed.
Beautiful. Number 4, whether the OSRD reduces the total amount of disturbance on the site. Larry?
Again, yes, I agree.
Thank you. George?
Absolutely, it does.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody?
Yes,
Thank you. And Mary?
Yes.
Thank you. Number 5, whether the OSRD furthers the goals and policies of the open space and master plans. Larry?
Yes,
Thank you. George?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody?
I agree.
Thank you. Mary?
Yes.
Number 6, whether the OSRD facilitates the construction and maintenance of the streets, utilities, and public services in a more economical and efficient manner. Larry?
Yes.
Beautiful. George?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody?
Yes.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes.
And finally, number 7, whether the concept plan and its supporting material, narrative documents complies with all sections of the zoning bylaws. Larry?
Yes.
Thank you. George?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody?
Yes.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you very much for screen sharing that, Martha. Let's see where I am with my notes here. So I think we have a little work to figure out the concept of this parking scenario, and I don't think I want to hammer that much more on you, Tom, tonight, because I think we've hammered it quite a bit.
Yeah, I think we have. I think it. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I don't see there is that much to think about from my perspective, and I've given this quite a bit of thought. But again, I understand this difference of opinion. I think it's more critical that we determine a lot count, because otherwise we're going no place with this tonight, you know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Then I want to open it up to public comment. Martha, you said that there were some hands that were raised, that had been raised.
There was one. Yes. Kristen?
Kristen, name and address, please. Thanks.
Hi, Kristen Grubbs, 28 Elm Street. I just haven't followed everything, and I really miss meetings in person where you can actually look at plans and be in a room with you all. But I've been looking online at the plans. I just want to say this looks like a really good OSRD to me. I've seen a lot of really bad ones, and I just want to compliment Tom and the board on where you've gotten. I had just a couple questions regarding the discussion of affordable housing, which again, I haven't been a participant in some of the previous discussions, but from what I heard tonight, my question was the term moderate affordable housing. I wasn't sure what the definition of that is.
Would you like me to elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I'll just finish my other comment and question, and then I can, listen. Regarding the open space, I was wondering if Greenbelt has actually been asked if they're interested in being the owner of the open space, even though it's a small parcel. I guess I would encourage them to be asked if they have not been, because in many cases, I think they are an excellent owner of open space. In particular, they're very good stewards of trails, parking areas. They're just a really great partner for a town. And I think in many cases, homeowner associations, however well-intentioned, may not end up being the best steward of trails and open space and, wildlife habitat and parking areas and all of that. So I guess that's a question and a comment. Thanks.
Kristen, thanks very much. Martha, do you want to answer the question as to the different definitions of affordable housing criteria?
Well, I'm not quite sure exactly what Tom is meaning by moderate. The HUD criteria basically talk about low income as being 80% of the medium income. And then I think, can't remember now exactly, very, very low is 50%. And then there's one that's not really defined.
If you'd like me to elaborate on that, yeah, you're right. The low income is considered affordable to somebody making no more than 80% of the area's median income. Moderate affordable housing, they're both affordable housing. They're pretty clearly defined, as it turns out, and moderate affordable housing is affordable to somebody who makes between 80 and 120% of the area's median income. So basically the average income of the area, if you want to put it in simpler terms.
So can I just add in then, hearing that, which I I appreciate and understand that the 80% area median income is a unit that the town could then put on DHCD's subsidized housing inventory, which helps the town in actually counting the affordable unit in its total. I would encourage the board, if you continue to explore having one of these units be affordable, I would just advocate for that unit being at the 80% area median income, because I think it's important for the town of Newbury to actually, move the dial on how many affordable units are counted in the town. I think that's a really important need and goal for the community to have. Thanks.
Kristen, thanks very much. Appreciate your comments, and the board still misses you, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay.
Miss you guys.
Okay. Hey, Martha, the question about the Kristen has raised with regards to Greenbelt, would that have any discussions taken place that you're aware of?
None that I'm aware of. I have not had any discussions with them.
Okay.
If I could jump
John?
in on that,
Sure.
Peter, yeah, in fact, unfortunately, I've forgotten the gentleman's name who did speak with me, who wasn't an official representative of Greenbelt, but was a member of Greenbelt and active, and suggested that they might be interested. My dealing with Greenbelt has been very good. We've given substantial open space to Greenbelt as stewards. They do a good job maintaining access and trails. I happen to be a lifetime member, so I think the world of the work they do. So, I think that's a very good alternative.
Would that be the direction that you'd like to pursue, Tom?
Yeah, if it wasn't going to be held by the town through its conservation commission, specifically in fee, then that would be my preferred route. I mean, I think it's the preferred way. I mean, we've dedicated a lot of open space over the years, as I think everybody knows, and I think it's good to have a good steward like Greenbelt.
Okay. All right. So now I'd like to, I guess, so when I ask the board, are we comfortable to direct Martha to start a draft for the OSRD special permit decision? Larry, your thoughts?
Yeah, certainly. We have some unresolved issues, but that might be a good way to, focus those issues and come to an agreement on it.
Okay. All right. George?
Yes, the one thing I would like to follow up on is Tom's suggestion going to transfer this to Essex County Greenbelt. He's had contact, and I'd love to see a follow-up on that.
Okay. Appreciate that. Leslie?
I'm in agreement with George. I would love to see the follow-up on the Greenbelt. Other than that, I'm a yes.
Okay. Woody?
Yes.
Okay. And Mary, your thoughts?
Yes, and thank you, Martha, in advance.
Okay. All right. That being the case, I would ask for a motion for such.
So you want a motion to direct the planner to draft a decision, or to prepare a draft
To
decision?
prepare a draft, yes.
I would so move.
It has been moved by
Second.
Larry. Has it been seconded?
Second.
It has been seconded. Is any discussion on the motion? Any discussion, Larry?
No discussion.
Any discussion, George?
No,
Great. Any discussion, Leslie?
Nope,
Any discussion, Woody?
None.
And how do you feel, Mary?
nope,
Okay. On the motion itself, how do you vote, Larry?
Yes.
Thank you. How do you vote, George?
yes,
Thank you. How do you vote, Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you. How do you vote, Woody?
Yes.
Okay, and Mary, how do you feel?
yes.
Okay, the chair is in favor as well. So Martha, I think we're going to have the process of starting that. Are you comfortable with that on your to-do list?
Yeah, I mean, as Larry indicated, there's some open questions, but we can note those going forward.
Okay, so that being the case, any thoughts, Larry, with regards to our next steps or any other things that you'd like to see the applicant share with us in the future?
No, I mean, I think the suggestions that's been made about contacting Greenbelt is an excellent one. When I suggested the homeowners association, it was not because I thought that was necessarily the preferable solution, but I thought perhaps the only practical solution, and I'm hoping I'm wrong on that. Greenbelt would be a great steward. As to the parking, let me just say the weight of opinion seems to be that 4 spaces are enough, and that the parking down off of Coleman is probably not the best location. And I wonder if, Martha, could we reach out to public safety and see if they're comfortable with the parking in the as Tom has suggested?
Yes, absolutely. I think they should weigh in.
And lastly, I think the only other major issue is to come to grips with the number of bonus lots. So that's all.
All right. George, thoughts?
none. I guess one question I have is how would anyone control the parking on the roadway? Those are not set parking spaces, certainly by the plan, but people being who they are, as we are, may decide to park in an open space that they think is open on the road. How would you propose to control that other than to have it posted or no parking on roadway signs?
Yeah, I think there's not much more that you can do, George,
Right.
about that. I mean, people don't always do what they're supposed to. We all know that. All we can do is make our best efforts to inform people and provide the way for them to do the right thing. That's really all we can do.
Right. Thanks.
Leslie?
Yeah, the parking issue, I completely understand. That should be not happening on Coleman Road. And even if you put out, no parking allowed, there are those people that are going to say, well, I'm exempt. The bonus lots, I'm feeling good about the bonus lots. And I think it's, full steam ahead at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you. Woody?
In after thinking about it, Greenbelt, if they wanted to be stewards to the open space, they would be a great fit. And then the parking for the public access to the open space. It's a good idea to check with public safety because it's going to be important to figure out where these 4 spaces will be. So, and that's all.
All right.
Now.
Mary?
I have nothing to add to what the others have said.
Okay. Martha, I just need a bit of clarification because we do also have the definitive plan. Help me with where that needs to go.
Right, so both the OSRD special permit and the definitive subdivision plan were submitted concurrently. Typically, we've had them sequentially. And while the open space special permit public hearing can stay open indefinitely, there is a timeline on the, it's really sorry, on the definitive subdivision plan. So the board has 135 days from when that was filed. And I believe that leads us to a decision needs to be filed with the town clerk on or before June 17th, 2021, unless the applicant grants the board an extension. So we're a little less than a month and a half away from that.
Okay, so Larry, do you have any thoughts on that, my friend?
No, I think we just go forward with
Okay.
as discussed.
Okay, very good. That being the case, I would like to continue this public hearing. Martha, what are you looking like?
Let me pull that up. So may I just ask if needed,
Yes.
ask the applicant whether he would be willing to grant an extension if we get to that point?
Well, I guess if there's good reason to do that, Martha, then obviously I would. I don't see that there's that many lingering issues here, whether they're technical or otherwise. So I realize there's still 2 meetings before that date, or maybe 3. I'm not sure, but I mean, I'd like to think we could make revisions and get comments back on everything for the meeting for the 19th, and see where we are then, and if there's any need to prolong it. Actually, I mean, again, I don't want to be pushing, but time is important in everything we do, and I'm sure nobody wants to discuss this longer than it really needs to be discussed anyway. I mean, I'm still a little bit in the dark about the lot count, and that's concerning me about doing the work that we need to do to prepare the final plans to have a decision made. That's still that still is an issue for us, my team, my design team and engineering team to go forward. But I'd still like to see that determined and then present those revisions for the 19th.
Larry, with regards to Tom's concern for the units, what was your feeling of that straw poll?
I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a consensus. I mean, speaking for myself, I'm very conflicted about it. Certainly, I think this is worthy to go forward as an OSRD, and certainly there would be no incentive to the developer to do that without at least one bonus lot. You know, I certainly would be in favor of that. Where I'm a little bit in conflict is whether or not it's in the public interest to perhaps, rather than authorize a second bonus lot, to perhaps keep lot 7 in its natural state. Or in the alternative, and I hope this doesn't sound like I'm trying to coerce anything, but you know, that might an affordable unit might push that over the fence for me, you know, to 2 bonus lots. So I'm very conflicted, and I'm interested in hearing the thoughts of my fellow board members.
We can continue this discussion. George, would you like to weigh in on what Larry has said?
Consistent with what Larry has said, the bonus lot would only arise, the second bonus lot would only arise with one affordable housing unit. Is that correct? Otherwise, there would be just one bonus lot.
So this is very, and Martha, help me with this. What we're trying to do is just determine what would be appropriate. We don't want to tell the applicant, and we can't tell the applicant what to do with regards to that. We have expressed our concern and desire, and that's what our conversation was about. Martha, did I summarize that correctly?
Yeah, and just to clarify again, he's eligible for the 2 bonus lots based on the amount of open space upland that's being set aside as open space.
Regardless of any affordable units.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
I mean, he could choose to do it differently. He could leave, you know, less upland as open space, but create an affordable unit with the same result. But he's eligible for the 2 bonus lots as the plan is shown right now.
Just want to make that clarification. Leslie, do you have any additional thoughts at this time?
Not at this time.
Beautiful. Any other, Woody, any other additional thoughts, my friend?
No, I don't.
Okay,
No.
beautiful. Thank you. Mary, any additional thoughts?
No, I think you should get the 2 units. That's been my feeling all along.
Okay, thank you. Martha, let's take a look at our schedule so we can continue this hearing, please.
All right. Okay, you got that?
Yes, perfect. I am liking and appreciating this lighter schedule, Martha.
Looking a little better.
Okay, so we're at the 5th. The 19th, we have 105 continuing. We have 84. 84 should be wrapping up. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've got the draft decision and it'll be a matter of finalizing that.
Yep. Okay. So what time is 105 on for 7:15?
Yes.
Do we want to do an early with this one, as we did, or do we want to have those two back to back? Because I think that one's going to be a little bit longer and lengthier.
Yeah, that could be a little lengthier.
There's going to be a little bit probably more public comment with that discussion as there has been in the past. Let me find if the board's applicable to doing another 6:30 start. Larry, would you be okay with that?
I am, but I don't know. Martha, that's only 2 weeks. Does that give you enough time?
But that is tight. It is.
You know, it's not ideal, but I'm also sensitive to the applicant's desire to, you know, we're getting close.
If you're okay with it, I'm okay with it.
No. No, not entirely up to me.
Larry,
Turn up for a book.
Larry, you're bringing up a very good point. What other things on our table and our listing do we have, Martha, just for consideration?
I mean, part of it depends on what happens tonight
Okay.
with the other two.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Okay, Larry, I'll let you direct your thoughts on our follow-up for this.
Well, I mean, it's, I'm not the one under the gun here to get this done. As far as a time of day to meet, I can meet anytime. Okay. And if and I would be open to a special meeting to take this up.
Okay.
Maybe give Martha an extra week.
I kind of like that thought very much. So that would give about a week of breathing room, because I think we are going to have some things that are going to be coming out from today. So that would put us at the 26th. Would that be available on your schedule, Mark?
let me just double check.
Yep. And I'm going to ask board members also to check their calendar right now as we do that, just to make sure we wouldn't create a conflict for the 26th.
No, I think that's okay for me.
Okay, then I'd like to entertain a motion for a continuation of this public hearing for 7 o'clock on the 26th.
I would so move.
Beautiful. Is there a second to that motion from Larry?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Discussion, Larry?
No.
Discussion, George?
No.
Discussion, Woody?
No.
Discussion, Leslie?
No,
And are you okay with that as well, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Then on the motion itself, how do you vote, Larry?
Yes.
Beautiful. On the motion, George?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
On the motion, sorry, Leslie?
yes,
On the motion, Woody?
Yes.
Okay, and you're okay with that as well, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful.
Yes.
That's what we'll do. Beautiful. This was a longer than anticipated discussion, but I think we did hammer through some things. I want to thank the applicant and I want to thank the public and public comment as well. Thanks, folks. Okay, Mary.
Thanks, Tom.
Yes, thank you, Tom.
Thank you, folks.
Martha, we can probably stop the screen share if that's okay. Beautiful. I appreciate the patience of our additional public hearing individuals. Our next public hearing is the 3 Newburyport Turnpike Site Plan Review. Continuation, Martha, we have revised architectural drawings that were submitted to the board on Monday,
Yes.
5/3. There continues to be discrepancy, I think, between the number of units shown on plans of 12 versus the number of units on the civil drawing plans of 14, and the parking requirements are based on 14. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me ask the applicant to present any revisions or responses to the previous comments or questions from the board or from Joe, the consultant.
Good evening, TJ Melvin with Millennium Engineering here on behalf of the applicant. Yep, so as you had mentioned, the architectural plans do show 12 units. That's in error. We are still proposing the 14 residential units. As far as any responses to Joe, I believe we've satisfied everything. I haven't received anything in the past couple months from him. I know, Mark, that we were kind of exchanging a few emails yesterday, and some concerns came up regarding the lighting plan. I did speak with our lighting consultant today, and we can change the fixtures themselves. We can change the model specification to provide more of a warmer light than what we currently have proposed. I can pull up the architectural plans if the board would like to see them. We have not made any revisions to the site plan since a couple meetings ago, but I can pull that up for reference if anyone would like as well.
Sure, why don't you do that real quick, TJ?
I've just enabled you to do that. You should be all set.
Thank you. These are the revised elevations that were provided by the architect. I can try to answer any specific questions the board may have. Unfortunately, the architect is recovering from surgery and could not be at the meeting tonight.
Just for clarification, TJ, are these now condos or are these apartments?
So the plan is that they're set up as condos, so they will have their own individual services. I believe that the intent that they're going to be condos.
Okay, all right. And then just for clarification's standpoint, on the drawings on the first floor, we're showing 50% being commercial designated, and then 50% is going to be, is that a gym or a workout area?
Yeah, kind of like an accessory use to the residential, whether it's a gym or a storage or something like that, but it will not actually be dwelling units.
It won't be dwelling units, and it will not be commercial space.
No.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I don't know. It will be either like a gymnasium for the residents or the accessory use for the residential use.
Okay, but it will not be used for commercial space.
No.
Okay, great, perfect. Let me see if the board members have any questions for TJ, the representative. Larry, do you have any questions, sir?
Well, I just want to clarify, are we talking 12 or 14 units?
It's 14 units.
But the plans we have are for 12 units, correct?
These floor plans, yes, are for 12 units. The architect had started with the wrong base file, but the site plan and the parking are all based on 14.
So how are you going to fit in the additional 2 units? You're going to change the footprint, go up?
Nope. So in our previous submittal, we had the same building footprint showing 14 units. Just unfortunately, he'd started with the wrong file. So we have submitted previously the same footprint of the building showing 14 units.
Oh, so we have that. So I just want to be sure we understand what it is that we're voting on. So it's basically this exterior with 14 units. Is that
correct? I can actually pull up those floor plans if you'd like.
Yeah, actually, would you? That would be helpful.
Is this 14 or 12?
That looks like 12 to me.
It is 12.
They do not have the most recent.
Yeah, that's the old.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's
the
fix and
old
fix.
There's a floor plan. I just pulled it up, I think dated January 5th, which shows 7 units on the second floor and 7 units on the third floor. TJ, is that the one you're looking for?
Yeah, I don't actually have that file with me.
You say January 7th, Martha?
January 5th.
Yeah.
So there are two two-bedroom units on each floor. The rest are one-bedroom units.
And your parking calculations are based on 14 units?
Yeah, so that's one. And the drawings do state that the parking is based on 14 units.
Okay, so what we're looking at, this would be the second and third floor identical, correct? 7 and 7? TJ?
Okay, I mean, I'd like to see the corrected plan, before we sign off on anything.
Yes.
Yeah, there should be a fully coordinated set of plans.
Yeah.
Okay. TJ, do you have anything else for the board?
I do not at this point, and I can try to answer any other questions anyone may have.
Okay. Let me see if there's any other questions from board members. Larry, any other questions, sir?
No.
Okay. George, any other questions?
I was disappointed not to see an elevator at my age. I'd love one, but it depends on who buys these apartments and who wants to walk up a couple of flights of stairs to get to the third floor. That's not your problem, that's my problem.
I'm not that far behind you, my friend. Okay, Leslie, any comments or questions?
I feel George's, his pain on that one, but no additional questions.
Thank you. Woody?
Unfortunately, I understand mobility issues, so. I agree with George, but,
Poor Woody.
All right.
That aside, I only have one other question. The latest plan that we got, that we're looking at here, the cover page, that's the actual color of the building?
Board may remember the red that was on the previous submittals.
Yes.
Is it green?
It's sort of a grayish green.
Yep.
Right, is that the color?
I believe that's the intent. I can confirm with the architect for the next submittal, but I believe that was the intent.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
good question, Woody.
Mary, do you have anything else?
No,
Okay, great.
thank you.
Beautiful. Martha, do we have any, TJ, thank you for sharing your screen. Martha, do we have any public comment?
No, we've received nothing.
Okay, all right. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment on this?
I am not seeing any raised hands.
Okay. All right. All right, so moving on to the draft decision. Do we want to go by this, through this with our focus on the findings and conditions?
Yeah, there are a couple of other project description things, so it might make sense to kind of just go through section by section, but focus mostly on the findings and conditions.
Okay,
So would you like me to screen share it?
please do. Thank you. We might need to make that a tad bit larger. Thank you.
Widen it to get all the comments.
All right. You might have to help with these comments, Martha.
All right. So under the project description, there was a discrepancy actually between the narrative and the square footages on the drawings. And TJ, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was actually an incorrect square footage, which was representing the entire parcel, but was written as being the section in Newbury. So the areas that are shown here, it's 1.67 acres in total area with 1.59 in the two parcels in Newbury and approximately 0.78 acres in size. And that's my understanding after some conversation with TJ. Is that correct, TJ?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And I guess I'll ask if anybody noticed anything in the description that seemed to be confusing or inaccurate based on what we've been provided with. The next note was about the discrepancy between the 14 and the 12 units. So that will be, I'm just going to highlight this. This will be something that will be clarified in terms of the number and the mix. And TJ, my understanding is that you're still waiting for approval from Mass DOT.
Yes. We actually did receive some comments from them today. They have made some comments regarding the signage that was used on the traffic management plan, but they do want us to look at putting a sidewalk across the frontage of the lot.
Okay, so that will be a change to the plan that we might see on a final set.
Yes.
All right. And TJ added here the total area of square impervious surface. There were a couple of things that I had missed on the drawings. One was the fire hydrant. There is a generator also. TJ noted that there will be an update on the lighting. One thing that we haven't seen is any details regarding the signage, either building mounted or the ground mounted signage. So I don't know if the board would like to see any of that or whether that might be something that would be a condition of approval. I've noted that as a condition. And natural gas, I believe, is also still in discussion.
Yes, we plan on bringing natural gas in for the generator, but the individual units will have like kind of a dual heat AC wall mounted unit. So they will be all electric for both heat and air conditioning.
So TJ, the role of the generator, is that good? That's going to be an emergency generator?
Yeah, it's primarily for the environmental one pump we have for the sewage disposal. So that's kind of what necessitated that.
Okay, so that does not have to do with the commercial or the residential usage. It's part of the remediation.
Yeah, I mean, at this point now that we will need it for the pump, then it will probably provide backup power to the building, but it wasn't initially planned.
Okay, Leslie, did you have a question?
Yeah, TJ, the heat and air conditioning systems that you're putting in, are those going to be like the, what are they, the Mitsubishi type of wall units that
Heat pump, is that what you're looking for, Leslie?
heat? Yeah, and so it's mounted to the exterior part of the building, but it's a small unit that is attached to a wall unit inside of the building versus like baseboard heating and things of that nature. So they're all tied into one thing.
Yeah, and speaking with the applicant, that's his initial thought of what he wanted to do for heating and air conditioning. And to this point, still the plan.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, continuing on, Martha.
Okay, the next was procedural history. So I had no comments on that.
Right.
The next was the submitted materials and information.
Right.
So unless anybody has comments there. Next was a waiver request, and I believe that there was never any request for a waiver from the community impact assessment. So TJ has noted that they can submit a formal waiver request for that if the board would like.
Larry, your thoughts?
But, well, they need the waiver, right, Martha?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, as long as it's recognized and referenced in the decision, I don't care if they submit it formally or not.
Okay, George, you're comfortable with that as well?
Yes.
Okay, Leslie, you're comfortable?
Yes.
Beautiful. Woody, you're comfortable?
Yes.
Great. And Mary?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, thank you, Martha.
Then the next part comes down to the findings. So I don't know whether you want to go through these one by one. I believe that they reflect the discussion that the board had.
Let me just, does anyone have any questions on the findings as they were circulated? If not, we'll continue on to the next page, which would be page 7. And are there any concerns with regards to the conditions of approval? Okay.
Just
ahead.
on I, we're gonna plug in what, 3,000 K there? Is that,
On page 8 now. Yep.
yeah,
So rather than 4,000, 3,000, Martha?
I believe, is that what you're looking at, TJ?
Yes.
And with regards to construction, your comment, let's see. So construction should be 7 A to 5 P. Monday through Friday, and weekends 8 to 2 exclusive. And there's no construction on Sunday. Okay. With regards to hours of operation. I'm just trying to read this, Martha, given the
Given the mixed use and location of this building near and adjacent to other commercial uses, I'm just kind of questioning whether there needs to be any condition.
other, do we have any conditions on other hours of operation for anything in this mixed use area?
We actually, this is the first project we've had in this area. We certainly have, conditions on other projects.
The only thought is the commercial piece of this, right?
Right.
And Larry, any thoughts on restricting hours or
I don't really see the need for it, honestly. I mean, obviously, we can't restrict their residential use.
Right.
And it's just a commercial use, and we don't even know what that's going to be right now. And given the location, I can't imagine anyone's going to be disturbed.
Okay. George, are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. Leslie, are you comfortable with that?
Larry.
Okay. Woody
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Okay. So do you want to remove K from this, Martha? We'll strike it. Okay. And any additional comments on the remainder of page? I think this is 8. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to page 9.
Page 9 is a signature page.
Okay. So we're going to need a final set of coordinated documents. You're gonna need your lighting package, right, Martha?
Yes.
Okay. And anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. We discussed that the tenant gym would be used by tenants, so it would be no commercial usage of that space.
Right. So. I guess a question would be whether the board wants to put in a condition to that effect.
Larry?
I don't know that it's necessary.
Okay. George?
I don't think it can.
Okay. Leslie?
I don't know that it's necessary either.
Okay. Woody?
No.
Okay. Mary?
No.
Okay, great. There you have it, Martha. So, I think we need this before we can do a vote on a file, the outstanding pieces before we can vote on a final decision. Is that appropriate, Martha?
I think so. And since the board is expecting additional material, I would keep the public hearing open.
Okay, let's take a look at the calendar and see if we can get this into our final path. Is there a question? Is it a public comment question?
Kristen has her hand raised.
Kristen, do you have a question?
Hi, Pete. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if you were taking them.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
This is Kristen Grubbs at 28 Elm Street. This is the first time I'm taking a look at this, so I'm trying to catch up. I just am noting part of the structure is in the wetlands buffer and what looks to me like floodplain. I'm just wondering about the decision, and I'm not really sure exactly what the community impact statement consists of, but your discussion a few minutes ago of waiving, asking the applicant for a community impact statement, would a community impact statement look at things like impact to wetlands, floodplain, looking at all of those kinds of issues, or has that already been done?
So this did go through conservation, and Martha, help me with Bill's the final position, because my memory is getting a little foggy at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Conservation Commission approved this. I think their remaining comments had to do with some of the plantings in the bioretention area, and that was resolved. So I believe, TJ, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe an order of conditions has been issued on this. Almost the entire site is in the wetland buffer. So, and it did.
That's correct. We did receive the order from the Conservation Commission, and we are actually outside of the floodplain. And one thing regarding the community impact statement, Martha, I'm not sure. I think I had commented in reading the regulations. Does it say the board may require a community impact statement? That was my initial understanding of why we didn't submit it. But just a question, I guess.
Right, but typically, if you're not going to submit it, the applicants do request a waiver from that, even though it is a may.
Okay. Either way, if the board wants us to formally request, we can, or if not, that's fine as well.
And Kristen, the other thing about this project is it's in the Water Supply Protection Overlay District. So there was also a submission application made to the select board because there's the special permit granting authority for that, and they did issue. There's a lot of discussion about the site. It's the old Circle Finishing site. So there was a lot of remediation that's been done on the site. There was a lot of concern about potential impact on groundwater. And because of the way the site is being treated, they're actually going to bring in fill, raise things up and minimize excavation. It was felt that there was minimal to no potential impact there. Newburyport has also reviewed it. Their water and sewer department looked at it. They were concerned about what might happen because of the previous contamination if there was a breach in the water system. And all of those questions were resolved.
Okay, thanks. That's really helpful. And I apologize for coming in late to a very lengthy process. And thank you all for your time with all of this.
Thank you, Kristen. Okay, let's look for a date to continue this. Martha, your thoughts? So we've added something in on the 20.
And this one, I would think continuing to May 19th might not be problematic as long as TJ can get us the outstanding items. Because the board has just gone through the decision, so it doesn't seem like there are many issues there. So I would imagine this would be probably fairly quick.
TJ, would you be able to get that to Martha within 2 weeks and get that all buttoned up?
Yeah, we should.
Okay, beautiful. Then I entertain a motion to continue this public hearing in the to follow 7:15 category on the 19th.
Motion to continue site plan application 3 Newburyport Turnpike to May 19th, 7 p.m.
15. Thank you, Leslie, for the motion.
15.
And is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion on the motion. Discussion, Larry?
No.
Discussion, George?
No discussion.
Discussion, Leslie?
No.
Discussion, Woody?
None.
Any discussion, Mary?
No.
On the motion, how do you vote, Larry?
Yes.
How do you vote, George?
Yes.
How do you vote, Leslie?
Yes.
How do you vote, Woody?
Yes.
How do you feel, Mary?
Yes.
And the chair is in favor as well. Thank you.
And
Okay,
just to clarify, that's 7:15.
7:15, correct. Yes, thank you. TJ, we'll see you then. Thanks very much.
Great, thank you all.
And continuing on is our 217-221 High Road Division definitive subdivision public hearing. It's continuance. Is there any new materials from the applicant or the engineer?
We did receive an updated
Drainage?
drainage plan
Okay.
today.
Okay. Who would like to speak, Scott or Doug? Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Douglas DeShane representing Gadsden Lane LLC. With me here this evening, Adam True, manager of Gadsden Lane, and Scott Cameron from the Moore and Cameron Group. The board will recall at the last meeting, we did address a number of open issues. We talked about our client meeting with the neighbors and coming to an agreement on the neighbors' concerns. We also reviewed and the board voted on waivers. So I think we went through most, if not all, of the remaining items. However, at that time, there was still work ongoing between the town's peer reviewers, Mr. Holt and Mr. Sawatka, and our engineer. I understand that they have finally resolved and addressed all of the outstanding issues and concerns. And at this point, I believe, and I'll let your peer reviewers speak for themselves, but I believe we have addressed all of their concerns. And so we're here this evening to verify that with the board and then to answer any remaining questions or concerns you have in moving forward. So, Mr. Chairman, we're available. And again, Mr. Cameron is here to discuss the engineering review if you would like.
Martha, could you just clarify what was the recommendation from both Bill and Joe?
I don't know, might help actually if Scott pulled the plan up.
Okay.
We could discuss it in that context.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Scott Cameron with the Moore and Cameron Group. Thank you for having us. I'll be brief. You've seen all of this plan. This was in the prior submittal, which responded to the first review from Joe and other staff comments. The one item that we did change, and again, this was working through, following our last meeting, we met again with Bill and Joe to talk about really the concern regarding where the water is going and is it going to a coastal resource, and the significance being, do we need mitigation or do we need to put a detention pond on the property or not? So Joe had asked that we put back into the design a level spreader, which we added back on for this revision. That what we did to address their concern about the direction of the flow is we added directional arrows which follow the natural topography of the land to illustrate where the water will go once it exits the best management practices for the road. And that goes directly to the land subject to coastal storm flowage. These do not require any work at all. The actual forest bed itself will act as the filter as water travels through the path it would normally travel through anyways, as it does today. And that was the extent of the changes. It was really, I guess, minor changes. We did add this detail back in, and this was on this one here, the level spreader. This was on the original plan. We had taken it off because we had swapped out the BMP, but then Joe asked us to put it back in tandem with the BMP we had added. So BMP is best management practice. But that was the extent of it. My understanding is this was satisfactory.
Okay, Martha, do I remember other comments coming in or other recommendations from Bill?
I think that there was another recommendation from Joe. Let me just step back a little bit. We did have a second technical meeting, and sort of at the end came, sort of seemed to come to a meeting of minds regarding this solution. The feeling was putting in, some sort of a detention basin or something like that would create much more disturbance on the site. The one concern that Joe has is that, his recommendation is that there be a very clearly defined easement for this drainage to make sure that the homeowners don't actually take it upon themselves to do something in their yards where the flow is supposed to be going. It would be a little bit more clear cut if there were swale there or something like that. But in this case, where it's going to be basically the forest bed that's acting as the filter.
Right, and so his recommendation was to have something in the form of an easement to make sure that that would still be functional, correct?
Correct.
Scott, have you had an opportunity to digest that?
Listening to it now, I guess an easement would encompass the entire back part of the property because everything on the property drains to this area. So I look at it as kind of, we do have an easement over the key BMPs, which I highlighted. So we are showing an easement here, which is in this, and this covers all the best management practices that are being constructed. If a homeowner were to do any work in the back of the property, that would trigger Conservation Commission review. There's a overlapping kind of belts and suspenders oversight here. And again, everything goes to this area. So I guess I don't see the benefit in encumbering a property with an easement in this case.
So this is the first time you've heard this, Scott?
It's the first time I've heard about, I guess we are including an easement already.
And Martha, the recommendation would be that would be extended?
That it would include the vegetated filter strip that's being shown here.
The vegetated filter strip is all of the woods.
But you're showing but you're showing a flow coming from the level spreader that's going, in that direction with the arrows. So
right. Again, we don't need it. It's just to show that the water's going to the coastal resource. It really, frankly, we're dealing with a regulatory, it's something I've never encountered before, ever. We always design to a design point. It's just, we're trying to work around a regulation versus, clearing trees or cutting in a swale, which requires clearing trees and doing other structural measures where it's not necessary.
So I think what what the recommendation is just to make sure that this stays functional in place, Scott, right? That's what we would want, right?
Yeah, it's not a question of function. It's a question of the laws of gravity. Unless somebody were to get water to flow uphill, which they wouldn't be able to do with altering within a buffer zone to a wetland and triggering Conservation Commission jurisdiction, there's no way they can change where the water is going. What I don't want happening is for them to change the structural measures that are being put in, which is why we put the easement here. Easements are typically, we want to make sure people can get in to maintain, to make sure that they aren't altering those structural measures. Those are actually credited. I didn't take any credit at all for any of the the mitigation or the renovation, so the cleanup of the water that a filter strip would normally be put in for. Again, I'm just using this as a mechanism on the plan to show everybody that the water's going in this direction. I could draw this arrow, really anywhere. It can go here, water comes down here, water goes this way. It all goes to the same point on the property.
So I'm beginning to think that it might be good to have a meeting of the minds, Scott, a conversation perhaps with Joe to just give us, if he's making a recommendation and you're just hearing this for the first time today, and I understand what you're saying about somebody activating a conservation issue, but if somebody does do something in their backyard that could alter this,
Yeah, I just don't see the need for an easement. And I don't know what a meeting of the minds would accomplish.
Maybe there's some other way to deal with it. If there's, homeowner documents, maybe it's stipulated in there regarding, disturbance in their backyards or something, because not all of that is in the buffer zone. Some of it's in, some of it's out. So I'm just trying to, see what other mechanism there might be to make sure that people don't just do disturbance back there. They don't.
Well, wouldn't people have the right to use their backyard though, as long as they're complying with applicable, buffer zone and conservation? I mean, does the board typically get into, have they required easements on people's yards and other applications?
I think, Scott, what Martha was suggesting is something within the HOA documents that would be in keeping with the intention here. So she's taking it, the recommendation is now a back step from an easement, but something within the documents to give guidance.
Yeah, I defer maybe to Doug on the legality of that as far as encumbering a yard for somebody outside of, the limit of the road.
We can certainly provide for a no disturb area where the homeowners would essentially not be able to disturb it. And while I certainly wouldn't suggest we could or would want to put a no disturb on the entirety of the backyards of all of these two homes, Scott, I wonder if we could potentially, where you have your 20-foot easement that covers over the BMP, and then that easement currently is proposed to end at the silk fence. I could see where we could extend that 20-foot area and maybe flare it out a little and designate that as a non-disturb, just so that we can satisfy Joe's concern that, this outlet structure, this level spreader is going to function great, but then when the water starts moving overland, you know, somebody's put a pool right there or a structure or something.
Again, I think this could be something that the board can condition, a crafted condition that we could talk to Joe about for your peace of mind as the board. If I were to make that recommendation, the condition can be something along the lines of, the plans illustrate, that the stormwater from the development will enter the land subject to coastal storm flowage on the property, and this shall not be modified or altered by, the homeowners or something along those lines. Because again, I don't think it's something. If I try to draw an easement on the ground, it's arbitrary. There's no, because the water flows across the whole rear area. I don't see what an easement does other than it arbitrarily encumbers a property. And I can just foresee, not this board, maybe 10 years, 15 years down the road, some homeowners just completely, frustrated by the fact that there's an easement on there and wondering why it's there. I think it'd be more effective to document with the subdivision decision that they should not encumber, or inhibit the ability of the water to freely drain to the coastal resource on the property. And I think that'd also be a good control during construction, or anybody buying the home. I know Adam plans to build out these homes, but that would also be a good catch-all, regardless of what we show on the plan here, just that, this is the grading intent for the project. We would like to maintain that intent. And I've seen this on other subdivisions where, the lots start to veer away from the grading intent. And I'm getting calls 2-3 years after the fact to come in and try to fix something that I wasn't, I think it's a good catch-all for that. Would be my recommendation.
I think, Scott, that the way that could be accomplished then and would satisfy Joe's concern is we could draft a restricted covenant on those two lots that basically says just what you said, that they cannot do anything on that backyard that would impede or prevent the drainage flow from this BMP from naturally draining to the thing. So we could put a legal structure in place that would create a restrictive covenant on the lots that would prevent that. So we could satisfy that requirement through a restricted covenant.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So, Larry, what's your thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, I think you would probably also want something in the homeowners association giving them the right and the obligation to maintain it.
Okay.
So that you've got somebody on site with authority to take action in case that restrictive covenant is not honored.
George, your thoughts on Larry's comments and the discussions thus far? I can't tell if George's.
Yeah, quick question for George.
Hold on just for a second, Adam. I just want to pull the board. George, are you there, my friend? Can we stop screen sharing for a moment?
Yep, I'm trying to. Hold on. Yep.
I don't see George. Okay. I'm going to continue with the board then. Leslie, on Larry's comments.
I'm in agreement.
Okay. Thank you. Woody, on Larry's comments.
I believe Larry's comments are correct. It would be on a homeowners association, correct?
Restricted covenant, and then with homeowners association. Okay, Mary, your thoughts?
Yeah, restricted covenants, important. That's good.
Okay, I think you're getting the direction, Doug. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, we could agree to that condition.
Okay, great. Scott, you're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's thumbs up. And Adam, you're okay with that as well? Team's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I didn't ask this question. Martha, were there any public comments or have you received anything?
I have not, no.
Okay. Do we have anyone in the audience at this point in time that has any questions or concerns?
I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Okay. Let's see. We reviewed the waivers on our 4/7 meeting, and so we're all set with that. With regards to performance guarantees, we haven't entered into this discussion yet. So, Martha, our options are?
So the options could be a cash deposit, bond, negotiable securities, a tripartite agreement, or a performance, basically a performance covenant, which restricts sale of the lots.
Okay. I'm going to ask the applicant first. Doug, do you have any preferred tool at this point in time?
Well, no, as we all know, there are three mechanisms, as Martha mentioned, that are allowed under applicable law. Adam, do you have a preference on how you like to do your bonding? I mean, we usually start out with a restrictive covenant, but at the point when you've put in your base coat and you've got your drainage working, then we seek a release of that covenant through bonding for the finishing of the roadway. I mean, that's standard. The way we do it is, or that I've done it, is we do a restrictive covenant that prevents sale of the lots until the roadway is complete. However, you can at any point bond completion of the road through a tri-party agreement, cash bond, whatever you'd prefer.
That's my preference, is to get underway and bond it as we go.
I'm sorry, you're broken up, Adam.
That is my preference, to bond project once we get underway.
So we would do a restrictive covenant preventing the sale of any lots until the road's complete. However, at some point, we would seek a release of that covenant from, the lots, probably in succession as opposed to all. And we would then provide the board with a bond, again, likely through a tripartite agreement.
All right. Larry, your thoughts?
No, I think it's the applicant's choice in the form of security, so any
Leslie?
one of those work.
Yep. Leslie?
I agree.
Okay.
It's, what they're more
Yep.
comfortable.
Woody, comfortable?
Yes.
All right. And Mary?
Yep.
Okay, Doug, it's into your court.
Okay.
So our next talking point, I guess, is the homeowners trust. We touched on the drainage easement, right? Or lack thereof, the document that's going to be constructed. Other considerations that we need to discuss. Martha?
Yeah, basically the legal documents regarding the homeowners association and covenants.
You guys wanting a management plan of the snow management plan as well?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we usually within the homeowners documents, we
Within that.
will require the homeowners, Adam, to contract with a snow removal company and to be responsible for that. I guess I would ask Martha what the typical process is, but typically we, a lot of times what I see is a condition in the approval that requires that we provide the draft homeowners association to the town and to the board for review, prior to our ability to seek any occupancy permits.
all right, and we've had that condition on other subdivisions.
So whatever the board prefers, we're happy to condition the fact that we'll give the board and their council an opportunity to review the homeowners association for conformance to the board's requests and, legal viability. And we'll provide that prior to, whatever milestone the board is usually imposes, whether it's, first occupancy permit, I know is typical.
Larry?
Yeah, no, that sounds reasonable.
Okay. Leslie?
Yes.
Okay. Woody?
Good.
And Mary?
Yes.
Okay. But our next steps, do we have any other outstanding questions, Martha?
Nothing that I can think of.
Any other concerns from your perspective, Larry?
No.
Okay, Leslie?
No.
Woody?
None.
Mary?
No.
Okay. Do you, Scott, Doug, or Adam have any other questions or concerns?
No,
None here.
Mr. Chairman, we just wanted to wrap up the engineering. I thought we had addressed most everything else.
Okay, great. Then if that's the case, I would entertain a decision, a motion for Martha to begin to draft a decision.
I would so move.
Thank you, Larry, for the motion. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Leslie, on the second. Discussion on the motion, Larry?
No.
Discussion on the motion, Leslie?
No.
Discussion on the motion, Woody?
No.
And Mary?
No.
On the motion, how do you vote, Larry?
Yes.
And how do you vote, Leslie?
Yes.
And how do you vote, Woody?
Yes.
And Mary, how do you feel about that?
Yes.
And the chair is in favor of the vote as well. Okay, continuation date. Let's see. So we do have an extension, Martha?
Until June 7th, I believe.
Okay, can we get this done in the appropriate time schedule? So you have 3 decisions that you're working on now, Martha?
Well, the 84 Boston Road, the 3 Newburyport Turnpike, which are almost done, the 15 Coleman Road, and then this one. So,
Does the 2nd of June look like a good target?
yeah, my only concern about that would be if there were changes that needed to be made.
We're bumping up against
Until the
7th.
following Monday to get it filed with the clerk.
So what is your,
So maybe the May 24th target, or 26, whatever that date was.
so that would be the special, the additional date that we added in, which was May 26th?
Yes,
Okay, that one's at 7:15, right?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock or 7:15?
I thought that one was, the
Well, the meeting for
Okay.
7, but the public hearing for
public hearing is
7:15.
7:15.
Okay. Okay,
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. No, 3 Newburyport Turnpike was continued to 5:19 at 7:15. The 15 Coleman was continued to 5:26 at 7.
5:26 at 7. Okay, we want to continue this to that date? Would that give you enough time to, and then we have a week cushion?
I think that's safer.
Okay, good. I would entertain a continuation of this public hearing to 5:26 at 7 PM.
So moved.
And thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Woody. On the motion, any discussion, Larry?
No discussion.
Discussion, Leslie?
No.
Discussion, Woody?
No.
Discussion, Mary?
No.
Okay, on the motion, how do you vote, Larry?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mary, how do you feel?
Yes.
And the chair is also in favor. Great. So we'll see you folks back on the 26th, and hopefully we can have this pretty much buttoned up.
Thank you,
Sounds
Mr.
good.
Chairman, members of the board. We certainly appreciate all your work. And Martha, if there's anything I can do to help you, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you.
Yep. Likewise, same here. Let us know. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
guys for fitting in on the special meeting. Really appreciate
Very
it.
much. Okay,
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
great. All right. Let's see where we're at, Martha. Agenda.
All right.
Any, there's no submission. Is there any new business?
No.
And no old business, and I need to read in the financials, so let me do that. Financial report, April 2021, payroll and invoices, payroll warrants for town planner, planning administrator, PR 21-21 for pay period ending 4/10/21, and PR 21-22 for pay period ending 4/24/21. Number 2 is planning board expenses, invoices, Verizon wireless, planning board iPad 4/22/2021. Staples office supplies 4/22/2021. Third is peer review invoices, escrow account Joe Zawarka for 217/221 High Road for 4/15/2021, and for 15 Coleman Road 4/15/2021. All right, let me drop that down. Director's report, Martha.
Yeah, I have a few things. One, this may be something to put on a future agenda for board consideration in some way or other, but I'm not sure right now. We received a notification from one of the planning board members in Georgetown, and also communication with a resident on Larkin Road regarding a subdivision, a 10-unit subdivision in Georgetown, which actually has its access from Larkin Road. And it's the address is 66 Parish Road. And this is something that's actually been in the works there for quite some time. There was a previous proposal back in about 2006, I think, or maybe a little earlier, for a larger subdivision. And this is a more recent version. It's an OSRD, which was actually approved by the Georgetown Planning Board in November, on November 7th of 2018. And they're holding a pre-construction conference tomorrow. And so some considerations here, as you all may or may not know, the bridge down on Larkin Road, which is right at the Newbury Georgetown municipal boundary, has been out for a number of years. And the applicant for this project came before our select board several years ago, as before we moved over here. Basically stating that they would be requesting permission to rebuild the culvert with the hope that our guys would pave it. And that culvert replacement has gone through the Conservation Commission and was approved and I think extended. But there are considerations with the access of this being off of Larkin Road. And so I've contacted the Georgetown planner, John Cashel, to see if they would have any objections to our having some representation tomorrow morning at the pre-construction conference. Bill Holt is actually no longer serving as our conservation agent. He's over in Georgetown now as the health agent. He is probably going to be there, and he is continuing to help us kind of with the transition. So he, at least, I think, will be some eyes on this. My day tomorrow is extremely full, but I'm going to try to make it. I've got to be back here by noon for a meeting. And I don't know if anybody else from the Conservation Commission is going to be able to go. I know that Ben Gahagan can't. So it's kind of a long-winded report on, something that there are some, some potential issues for us. They did request or discuss at some point getting permission for the curb cut. So I need to contact our DBW director to find out whether that was actually granted, since that will be off of Larkin Road. And some concern about the impact of construction vehicles going over the road during construction, since they can't access it from the Georgetown side. The stipulation in the OSRD special permit from Georgetown is that the bridge repair be done before first occupancy permit is issued. So that could be some time from now. I don't know what their schedule is. So again, I don't know if this is anything that will need to come back before the board for, any kind of consideration or action at this point, since construction is starting, but this is sort of an FYI.
Did you say that access is only from the Newbury side?
Currently, that's correct. Ultimately, when the bridge is fixed and it's possible to cross from Parish Road in Georgetown to Larkin Road in Newbury, there will be access, but right now there's not. So it's all from Larkin Road.
So the plans that have been submitted will be actually in Georgetown and not in Newbury?
So the entire parcel that's being developed is in Georgetown, and I actually had a conversation with town council about this when the current application was before Georgetown, to see whether there needed to be any kind of subdivision application to us. And based on, I think there was a case law reference saying that there was nothing that needed to come before us for approval. But the town as a butter, could have some, concerns or some rights regarding the roadway.
Martha, I wonder, I don't know how this works, but I walk there every day. The bridge has been out since I moved here 6 years ago, but this will impact a lot of people in Newbury who live on that street on the side that we access. And I would very much like if the planning board in Newbury would be involved in this. I'm not sure how that gets done.
Yeah, and at this point, and in a way, the ship sort of sailed in terms of having input on the decision. But there may still be, some opportunities here. And so I told John Cashel that I would like to discuss it with him.
Well, let me know if I can help in any way. I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
And myself as well.
Martha, you might have already said this, but who's responsible for the repair of the bridge?
So
Yeah,
the developer for that project, and their team actually includes John Colantoni, who we know from the 108 Main Street project, is responsible for repairing the bridge, and then we would be responsible, Newbury would be responsible for paving it.
So that's going to be his project in Georgetown as well?
I'm not sure what his relationship to the development team is. I didn't see his name specifically on anything except for the email that was sent to me.
Okay, so he looks like maybe he has got 3 major projects going on within a short period of time.
I get involved in that. It's huge, right over the Parker River.
Yeah, and this one's been going on for quite some time and in different iterations.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
it sounds like it's getting closer to fruition.
Right.
In some way.
So I'm going to make the assumption that there will be no issue with our going to the pre-construction conference tomorrow. Hopefully I'll hear back from John in the morning, but I guess if anybody wants to join me.
What time is that, Martha?
It's at 10.
Damn.
At Town Hall?
No, it's at the site.
So the site at 10?
Yeah, 66 Parish Road at 10.
Okay, is that where that abandoned home is?
There is an abandoned home that's going to be demolished.
Good. About time somebody's going to die in that basement. Along with all the animals that are done there.
Martha, I appreciate your trying to get to that meeting on short notice. But Bill will be there and he'll be wearing kind of two hats, since he's still going to have a little bit of a relationship with our town as well, right?
Yeah, hopefully so. I'll text him in the morning.
All right. Okay.
I'll try to get there too. I'm supposed to be in Boston, but I might just try to get there if that would be helpful.
Yeah, if I can. Hopefully, as I said, I'll hear back from John and just I'll confirm with you guys that.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have any
Thanks, Martha.
issues coming.
Okay. Anything else on planning planning director's report.
Just a couple of things there. There is an A&R, which will probably be, if it can get sorted out, be on the agenda for the next meeting. It's a very complicated one. I don't know. Pete, I think you were probably the only one on the board at the time. Chris Bouton on High Road did a bunch of land swaps previously.
Okay.
A&Rs, and there are going to be some more in that area.
Okay.
And it's another one of, it's going to happen sequentially, I think, because of the way things are doing. So it's a little complicated. And the only other thing is it looks like the landfill solar project, they're resubmitting their post-closure permit for that. So there may be some motion on that project now.
Good. That's been quite a duration project.
Yes, it has, for various reasons.
Right. Okay, liaison reports, select board.
Select Board had a meeting last Thursday to talk about the liquor license down at Sunset Club. And they had a few issues as far as times of, let's see, if there was going to be any entertainment, outdoor serving as far as alcoholic beverages, and those were the biggest concerns. Martha did explain that the planning board had gone through all of their stuff and that we had signed off on it. So it looks like it's going to go through at this point in time, but they just have a few minor issues that they want to button up before they sign off on it.
Okay. Thank you. ZBA.
Yes, you might recall that as I reported last time, their last regular meeting had to be canceled because of problems with newspaper publication. So they're holding a special meeting tomorrow night to take up the business from that last meeting. Nothing that I think is going to come our way. 3 private residences on Plum Island that have applications for special permits to do work on the property. And then their regular meeting will be the 3rd Thursday of this month. I haven't seen an agenda for that obviously yet.
Okay, thank you, sir. MVPC.
MVPC, they are narrowing down the executive director search. So they have chosen candidates and there will be some interviews, and so hopefully that will be resolved soon.
Excellent. I do not have anything to report on conservation. I see minutes. Actually, this is 9:15, Martha, and this is 9:23 for the meeting minutes. Can we be that close to our schedule?
Amazingly.
You've done good, Pete, Martha.
No, I don't know what
Very
happened, but anyways, okay. On the projection, we have the meeting minutes for January 6th, January 20th, and February 3rd. Will those just be executed, signed off? Martha, is that going to?
Well, these are, Emily's done a great job of drafting them. I was just going to do a final review and get them to you, which I haven't been able to do.
Okay.
Martha, why don't you just read them to us right now?
You know how many pages long they are?
No, hey, we're game. Hey, we can hang out another 3 hours, huh?
How many public hearings they cover?
Yeah, let me suck down a couple of espressos.
Yeah, and hey, Woody's up for it.
Yeah, I need a.
So
I'll get
I've
my
fallen
phone.
asleep twice.
All right.
I saw you. Me too.
I appreciate it
Okay.
very much, Martha. And I know that there's been a significant amount of activity, so we're sensitive to that. And Emily, I appreciate your lifting the minute wagon. It's appreciated.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you,
Uh,
Emily and Martha, always, always,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah, always.
And I want to thank the board for tonight and getting through what we needed to get through in the manner that we got through it. And there was a lot of discussion and hopefully we'll get some continuation.
A lot
With,
of progress made.
with that being said, I would entertain a motion for adjourning.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion. Thank you, Leslie. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Woody, there's a second. Discussion, Larry.
No discussion.
Discussion, Leslie.
None.
Discussion, Woody.
No, good night, everyone.
Discussion.
No.
Okay. Do you vote yes?
No.
Larry?
Yes.
Yes. Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody?
Yes, please.
Mary?
Yes.
Thank you. And the chair's in favor as well. Martha, thank you very much. Emily, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for sticking with us. And Jen as well. Thank you. Have a good night, folks.
Thanks, guys.
Well.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Kate.